everyone, and welcome to the Evolve with Emily Show YouTube channel. The best way to support the show on this YouTube channel is to subscribe to the channel, like the video, leave a comment, and or share it with a friend. I hope that you guys enjoy this episode, and whichever way you choose to support the show, I just wanted to say from the bottom of my heart, thank you guys so much. I hope that today's message and episode brings some bit of positive change to your life. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Evolve with Emily Show. I am your host, Emily Hayden, and today you are joining me for a special guest, Scott Delity. He is a friend that I know from college, so everybody welcome Scott to the show. Welcome.
Welcome, Scott. Oh.
He welcomes himself. So we were friends back in college. We both attended Texas A&M University, and it was some of the most fun times of my life, for sure. Like, I had a great college experience. I know you did as well. We definitely saw each other a lot out at the bars. Woo! What a time to be alive.
I remember one time, like, I was like
I'm scared with your story that's about to come.
It was at social, and it was like when the song Wild for the Night first came out. And like, it was just like, yeah. And then I looked over at you and you were behind the bar and you're like, yeah. And then like, I found out like, you didn't even drink when you were at work, really. And I was like, that's the kind of level that you're on.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. And what's funny is that's still me.
Yeah. Same now.
I will say there was a period of time when I was bartending where I definitely drank while I worked. And honestly, I did very well for myself. Being like, I was just even more friendly, you know? But yeah, there's a lot of times when I would work and not drink and no one had any idea because I still would just like party hard. But that's just my personality, you know? I like to have fun no matter what.
Oh yeah, I'm the same now. Like, people are just like, I remember like one of my sponsees, like, just, I was like, sorry if I was like kind of squirrely the other day. And he's like,
squirrely.
Scott, you're always squirrely.
That's awesome. So, okay, you said sponsees. So will you tell them about what you're involved in now?
Yeah. So I've been sober for about 3.5 years now. Yay. It's a miracle. Super grateful. I'm involved in AA, and that's Alcoholics Anonymous for you guys that don't know. And it saved my life. And, wow. I moved to Southern California from Houston to go to a treatment center because I thought choosing the right treatment center was what was going to heal me. And in retrospect, it was the right choice because I had the flexibility to be able to like get a get well job and like go to meetings and like cook my own food and grocery shop and stuff. But AA is what, really has really helped me. And what I learned is AA is not about like, you don't drink if I don't drink. I won't drink. Won't you drink? Did you drink? What am I thinking about drinking? It's not about that. It's about getting a connection with something bigger than ourselves. And I've gotten that today, and like, the first like real God moment when I think about it is when I went to treatment. I was like steadfast that I was not going to go to AA. And then at like 9 months sober, I looked back and I'm like, wait, I've been going to AA every single day since I got here. And I hadn't even thought about it, Wow. And I was like decisive that like I was not going to go.
And why was that? What was your feelings or thoughts that you were having against going to AA?
Well, first I really wasn't super aware about what it was and like the value. And also I had tried to get sober before, and I had, I can't remember, it was like, I think it was like close to 6 months, and I was going to AA then, but I ended up relapsing. And so like, as alcoholics, addicts, whatever you want to call it, we like to blame anything on anyone except for ourselves. And so I think that I attributed it to that. And then I also did have a negative experience trying to go to meetings here in Houston.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
How so? If you don't mind sharing a little bit.
Yeah, like
just generally.
One time this old guy like would not let me leave after the meeting. And there's like these AA pamphlets, and one of them was about sponsorship. And he like held me there for like over an hour, like explaining to me the sponsorship brochure. And he's like, you can't leave or you're going to die. And I'm like, okay, well, are you going to be my sponsor? And he's like, no. And I'm like, what the?
You're like, so why are you talking
to
me?
And like this, like, if you're out there, look it up. AA sponsorship brochure. It's the worst. Like, it's the worst out of all the pamphlets they have. It's so stupid. Yeah.
Oh God.
Yeah.
You know what? That makes me think of how there are those people everywhere. Right? Because you hear about people who want to find God. And so they go to church, right? And they have really amazing experiences and find God. And then there's others where they'll go to a church or like a small group and they encounter somebody like that. And they're like completely turned off from it. They're like, I don't want to do this anymore. And so I think what it can just show us and teach us is that no matter, you know, what we're going after, whether it's like a college or a belief in God or a religion or something like that, like IA, you know, or a recovery place, you're always going to find those people. So don't let those kind of bad eggs spoil the entire experience or give you a misconception that there's not value there. So what if, like, that's crazy. What if you had that bad experience and you never did AA again? You know, I mean, maybe you would find another route. There's plenty of routes, I'm sure. But from what you've shared with me, it sounds like AA, like you just said, has truly saved your life.
I'd be homeless without friends or family for sure. The way that I was drinking and using, and I had no power against it. So for sure, if I had let that, actually, I mean, I did kind of let it restrict me, but I think God, you know, he allows us to have free will, but he'll pull his little strings if there's necessary, you know. And so I think that, you know, the last time that I drank, I came to after blacking out for 4 days straight. And I woke up in a drainage ditch by my house. And I had a split second where me came through, not alcoholic Scott. The actual Scott came through, and this thing.
Sorry, just whip it back.
I'll just go like this. And I asked God, like, to if you're there, like, allow me to do whatever it took in order to be sober, and right from that day, I was taking all the right steps, and fortunately, my family worked Al-Anon. If you guys don't know what Al-Anon is, it's for family members of alcoholics. I highly recommend it if you have someone that's struggling in your life. And so my parents knew how to properly support me when I asked for help, you know.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah.
Which is huge, because I think caring family members and significant others, it's like all they want to do is help. But if you aren't given the tools of how to properly help somebody that's struggling in that way, then by trying to help, you may actually be hurting.
Yeah.
So I think it's important, no matter what it is in life, that we gather the tools that we need to be successful in the area that we're trying to be successful in. So you, as somebody dealing with alcoholism, saying, okay, I need tools that can help me handle this, get through this. Same thing with your family. Okay, I have an alcoholic son. How can I get tools to help somebody dealing with this? You know, and you could replace alcohol with anything, you know.
Yes.
There's so many different things that people struggle with, and there's actually more anonymous groups than just alcohol, right? Like there's Overeaters Anonymous, there's Sex Anonymous, there's so many groups like that. And not that the anonymous groups are the only way, but for somebody who's struggling, like, hey, why not try it out? You know, what's the worst case scenario?
Yeah.
I think worst case scenario is you encounter somebody that won't leave you alone with a brochure.
Yeah.
And
you're gonna die, you know.
And you move on to the next one.
Yeah. Yeah, I was thinking about that when you were doing your last podcast with Patrick, because you guys were talking about, like, people don't really know where to go. And my recommendation is, if you don't, and you don't really vibe with the religion thing, think about your life seriously, and there is a 12-step program for it. There's Codependent Anonymous, which is for relationships. We all have those, and we all have some type of codependencies. And so that's a really good resource. But yeah, like, you made a really good point. You know, if you think about anyone in your life that is doing something that's harming themselves or others, you can probably think about getting angry at them because you care so much and you don't know why they're doing the things that they're doing. And to be honest, they probably don't either. But, you know, we're going to talk about my dad today, who recently passed on July 3rd. And he was so frustrated because he wanted me to be well so bad that he actually became like verbally abusive, and he tried to physically assault me one time, and, I kind of like that happened, because I know I can take my dad now, but I didn't hurt him on purpose, just restrained him. But that just shows like how far that frustration can go, and fortunately, as a result of working the steps, I was not only able to repair the relationship with our father, we were able to repair it together. It was stronger than it's ever been.
Wow.
And we have always been really close my entire life, so.
That is so beautiful. And I'm so sorry for your loss. And thank you so much for sharing that with us and for being brave enough, honestly, to be here and speak on it today. I kind of want you to speak to the fathers that are dealing with somebody in their life, maybe a son who is struggling with alcoholism. What is a word of advice that you could give them as a son who has been in that position with that self-sabotaging type of behavior, who probably, like you said, doesn't know why and feels guilty and wants to change, but keeps repeating the behavior? What could you say to that father?
Yeah. I would say, first, when they make promises or intentions, at that time, they probably have 100% resolve to make that decision. So if they say that they really want to get sober and this is the last time they drink, they actually probably aren't lying to you.
Wow.
But they're afflicted by a disease that's built into the part of the brain where instincts are built in. And so it's kind of like going to the restroom, is what I talk to like newcomers about. It's like you can hold your potty for quite a while, but eventually you're going to go against your will. And the disease compels you to drink and use in that way, and it gets worse unless you have some type of resolution and some type of higher power that can protect you from that. And so that's one thing, is like they're not lying and it's not personal. The other thing is detach with love. If you've tried and tried again, you've given them a place to stay, you've given them food, and they continue to do what they do, you need to take care of yourself.
Wow.
And so one thing is you actually may be extending their suffering, or actually even making it impossible for them to recover by giving them a safety net. And that's one of the hardest things to do, especially as a parent. It's like against everything that we're taught. But that's the only thing that can save them. It's the only thing that saved me. If my parents had continued to give me a safety net, then I wouldn't be where I am. But they took care of themselves. They did Al-Anon, they did therapy. And so when I was truly ready, they stepped up,
Wow.
Yeah. And so my dad, he used his business acumen to have like everything in place for if I was ever ready, and my mom helped me get to where my dad was so that I could, like I lost my car. This is just a funny story. I lost my car, and we found it at, like, I do not go.
Like you couldn't find it.
I couldn't find my car.
Were drunk.
Because I blacked out for 4 days. And like, I am not the strip club kind of person. Like, I've never been to one on purpose on my own accord, except for that time ever. Like Sean's birthday, he wanted me to go one time. And
throw Sean under the bus.
Spearmint Rhino.
Of course,
it's
Sean
not
did.
what they make it out to be, believe me. But my car was at the strip club, but then I didn't have my keys. And I was like, I must have, like, they must be in one of the strip clubs that I went to. And I was too scared. My mom freaking went into the strip club and found my keys.
Stop.
Not even joking.
Honestly,
what mom would do that?
I was going to say, can we take a moment of appreciation for your parents, both of them, for them to be so dedicated to walk into a strip club, to find your keys for you. But on a serious note, to go to therapy and Al-Anon and equip themselves with the tools to help you, rather than taking it so personally and just being like, okay, bye. Like you're just not with us anymore. Wow, incredible parents.
Yeah, you have to take care of yourself. And like something that always happens is you say, well, it's their problem, so why do I need to get help? The reason that you need to get help for yourself is because you're going to be unhappy otherwise. Wow. And your child's success does not have to be contingent on your happiness. It can be a supplement to your happiness, kind of like a relationship, you know. So, you know, if you have a person and they're the source of your happiness, any type of fluctuation, you're really going to find yourself struggling. But if you have your own life built around something, having a significant other can really skyrocket you to the fourth dimension in terms of your happiness. But if that doesn't pan out, or if they're having, you know, a bad day or whatever, you can still be happy.
Have you personally dealt with that in your past, of either somebody making you their whole world or you making somebody their whole world, and that kind of like codependent relationship, like what you're talking about, where, you know, if they're having a bad day, it like ruins you, or if you don't have them, all of a sudden your whole world is like crushed. Have you experienced that at all in life?
Yeah, Princess Jasmine. A whole new world. No. Yeah.
Okay, so then I would ask, what would you say to the guy or the girl who is that person who's placing all of their happiness into somebody else, and who like they're not okay on themselves, on their own, without that other person? What kind of advice would you give to them to kind of help bring their self-awareness to it and help them work through it?
Yeah. I personally, if you're a man, something that really helped me is there's this author named Terry Real, and he has a few really good books. One that's good for relationships. And we'll get you the title, because now I'm nervous and I can't remember the title.
We'll put it in the show notes below.
Yeah, it's it's not Relentless Betrayal, but it's like the same lines. Okay. Like about love, though. Basically about love. Why can't I remember that? It bothers me. Okay. But basically about love without borders, without restrictions, without games. And you know, one thing that he talks about is leading with the vulnerability. And he, you know, so if you and I were together and I was angry with you about something, let's say that, you know, let's say that you went out partying with the girls and you didn't tell me, you know, and what's really the reason that I am angry? It's because of my own insecurities. It's because of fear of loss of you, because you mean so much to me. Instead of saying like, why did you do that? Blah, blah, blah. You know, leading with the vulnerability, saying, you know, I have my own self-esteem issues, and I just think the world of you. And, you know, communication for us is key, and I want our relationship to be successful. And when things like this happen, it makes me fearful that we're not going to be able to, because I have my own stuff and I get myself all worked up because I know how great you are. And then also, we both need to be able to communicate with each other and be okay with that. That's a much more productive conversation.
I think where people struggle in relationship, whether it's friendship or whatever, is they struggle to make that connection because it's scary. It's scary to be that open, honest, real, vulnerable version of yourself, because what if it's not received, you know? And for somebody that's not confident enough in themselves to not take things personally, if something isn't received, that can really hurt. It hurts their self-worth. Whereas somebody who understands their self-worth and their self-value, they understand that people's reaction is not a reflection of them and their inner value. It's simply a reflection of that person.
It's not a contest. It's not a power struggle. It really is dropping that. And, you know, something that we tend to lose sight of when we get angry or upset with those that we care about is that we care about them. And there's a person that we love. Well, when we get angry with them, we tend to forget that we love them. And there's a reason why that happens, you know, and we kind of get caught up in that.
Were you always such a good communicator, or what has helped you become a better communicator and learned these conversational styles?
Yeah. I think I've been pretty good, but an issue that I've had is truly having feelings and truly loving partners, but having other things going on in the background that I am not proud of. And that makes it difficult to be authentic. And what's helped me is reading that book. And then there's another book by Terry Real for men. It's called I Don't Want to Talk About It. And it's basically about how society has kind of built men into these robots, and we are far from it. And actually, if you look at studies, men can be more emotional than women.
Wow.
And it's about how to come to terms with our thoughts and feelings and how it comes out. And basically what happens is we're supposed to shove down emotions, and it comes out as performance. So whether it's sports, the job, being the provider, you know, the husband, the partier, the class clown. I'm kind of like all of those except the husband. But it comes out as performance, and like those things are all great. But when that's basically how we take out our emotions, you know. And if you just think about this, like if you have a little girl that is acting out and being really bad, and a little boy that's acting out and being really bad, most people would be more surprised by the girl, because the girl is supposed to like keep it in and like be composed, and that creates its own set of issues. The boy is kind of like, they're just like, oh, he's excitable, you know.
Oh,
you know, or like me, you know, I was the student that the teachers loved to hate because I made like really good grades, but I was so bad.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. You know?
I was so bad. And, you know, but that just is kind of like, on my report card, it would say, Scott really likes being social. Yeah. You know, but if you had
Class
a girl,
clown.
if you had a girl doing the same kind of things, not necessarily in all scenarios, but, there's a hair on the mic. I have to get it off or I'll die.
Get it.
Got it. Okay.
ADD much?
Yeah. It really. But if there was a girl that had, you know, those same kind of tendencies, not in all cases, but the likelihood is that something more serious would be said. And that's kind of what Terry Real touches on in that book specifically for men. I highly recommend it. My mind was just blown. And, you know, the thing is like, so I struggle with eating disorder, body dysmorphia, depression, anxiety. I'm an alcoholic. I'm a drug addict. And, you know, I'm a codependent, and I take every kind of drug except for hallucinogens, because I was too scared on what I would do. Like if I have a Corona and I'm acting like this, like what am I going to do on other stuff? But anyways, all of those things are to cover up what's going on deep inside, which is, I feel inadequate. For me specifically, it's because I was bullied when I was a kid, and I didn't know why people were doing that to me, because I've always been a nice, caring, and selfless person. And I just couldn't think about why would somebody do that. Yeah. And I thought, and now in retrospect, like subconsciously, I established that for some reason I didn't have worth. And so I had to go the extra mile in order to be worthwhile. And so that is like a double-edged sword, because, you know, I've been able to be successful in my education and my career and, you know, like in my relationships. And, but at the same time, it made me think that self-esteem comes from others' reactions to me. And what I've learned from reading those books and working the steps and doing a moral inventory is self-esteem comes from esteemable acts, and not the way that the people react, but doing the act and knowing that that's the right thing to do. And it really wasn't until I've been talking a long time.
That's okay. You're spitting fire. That's why I'm letting you go. All
right. Spitting fire.
No, really, it's great. People want to hear it.
But it was my third sobriety birthday, March 7th this year. And
happy late birthday.
Thank you. Yeah. What a miracle, man. And one of my friends in the meeting was sharing about me, and he was going through a really hard time. And he shared about how when I found out that he was living out of his car, I brought him to get groceries, and I brought him to get clothes. And like I would like notice that his like socks were like ratchet, and I'd be like, dude, can I get you socks? And he's like, no, I like them. But I forgot about that.
Oh, right.
And when I was doing that, I felt so great to be able to help him. And then I had to move on to the next thing. And I closed my eyes, and I'm getting chills thinking about it now. But in that meeting, I closed my eyes and I started tearing up because I was like, damn, that is such a cool thing. And I forgot. And
wow,
that's where the self-esteem comes from, is the esteemable acts. And it's really hard because it's much better to get gratification, or validation from like a beautiful girl like you or my dad or whoever. But from within is the only way that it's sustainable long term.
Absolutely.
Otherwise, you're going to have to wrest happiness out of life, like wrestle, W-R-E-S-T, which is like you're like wringing out a rag, looking for that validation. And eventually, you have to wring it harder and harder, and at some point, you're not going to be able to wring anything else out. And so then what are you going to do, And so that fulfillment, and I still am working on that. But I can say that once I had that realization, it completely changed the ball game for me in the way that I operate, And so now I can do good deeds and not get caught. I don't have to go and tell somebody about what I did.
Wow. Yeah.
So,
well, because I think it comes from just who you are, right? It's not something that you're doing to gain validation or approval or to have anyone else recognize it. It's just when it's just a part of who you are, you just do it. And I think it's huge what you're saying, not to place your value or your worth in any other person, anything, any accomplishment, because I feel like once you live enough life, you really realize how those things come and go. Money comes and goes, relationships come and go. We hope that they stay, but like the reality of it is a lot of them come and go. And hopefully we can learn good lessons from each one that we're with. And I think we can, if we have that mentality. But it's just the realization, like what you're saying, is that at the end of the day, like you have to find these things from within, right? And for me personally, that comes from my ultimate source. And I'm not even my ultimate source. Like my ultimate source is God above. And because of that, I can keep going when I don't have it within myself, right? Because I think some people try to rely on only themselves with no God, with no higher power. And I think that's a really dangerous place to be in too, because I mean, I'm sure you can speak to getting to the end of you, know, and it's like when you have that higher power to rely on, when you don't have the strength, your higher power can give you that strength.
For damn sure. I've been experiencing that so much recently. But like what you said, it reminds me of the 3rd step prayer, which I say every day. I recommend you look it up, but if you're watching, but the final line is take away my difficulties so that victory over them may bear witness to those I help of thy love, thy power, and thy way of life. May I do thy will always. And what that means is, so take away my difficulties. The only reason that God takes away our difficulties is so we can bear witness to his power, his love, and his way of life. And so the only reason that good stuff is happening to me is because God wants me to help other people that have that. And, it's a cool thing to be a chosen medium for him too, Like I lost my dad on Saturday, last Saturday, and now I can help somebody else that loses their dad and is trying to stay sober through it.
Wow.
That's just like a tiny little example,
No kidding.
But then if you multiply that times all the people that we are able to help in all of the ways, it's something way bigger, and that's kind of a good segue into one thing is like when bad things happen, it's not personal, even if it seems like it is. And, we are humans and we're not godly, so it's hard for us to see these types of things. But if you take the cumulative effect of just this one thing, me being able to stay sober when I lose my dad and whoever I'm going to help with that, and then you string that infinitely across time, that's a much bigger effect on earth than losing my dad.
Wow.
And, that's hard to say sometimes, but it's true. And, I don't know if I believe in heaven or whatever, but there is a special place for men like my dad. And so he is also being used in a manner that is furthering God's will on earth or elsewhere, you know? And so we try to fit a God-sized universe into a human-sized box, and it just doesn't work, you know? You're like just spilling out everywhere. Right. And it doesn't work like that, you know? And so that's what I've truly learned to accept today. And so, that doesn't mean that I don't get hurt. That doesn't mean that I don't miss my dad. That doesn't mean that I don't have my own questions about the way that things happen, but I have accepted it. And I know that there's going to be a lot more that's going to come of this than already has, you know? And, when you made the comment about like coming to the end of ourselves, that happened a long time ago. You know, it's been a really rough month and a half. It's been just so bad. And I've been back and forth from New York and California, New York. And, I was depleted long ago.
Wow.
But God truly has given me strength and resolve. And especially at the end when he passed, he has just given me consistent signs that he's there.
Wow.
They're inexplicable. And so some people may call them coincidence. If you think that, then that's totally okay. But I can tell you, you're missing out.
I can second that 100%. Yeah. I always say that, like, for me, I think, you know, when things happen in my life and I see it as like a God moment, or as God showing me something or showing up, I know that, you know, other people would say it's a coincidence, but it's not, especially when you have a relationship with him. Because for me, the reason I know it's not a coincidence is because I'm like, I prayed for this, I talked about this, and now, you know, this is happening in my life, or, you know, whatever it is. So I definitely second that. Hey everyone, just a quick interruption from today's show to let you know that there are multiple ways you can be involved in the Evolve community. There's Evolve X, my premium mentorship and coaching program. There's Evolve X Worldwide, an entry-level mentorship program. And now there's actually a way to directly support the Evolve with Emily show podcast. All of those links will be down below. I just wanted to mention them. So if you haven't checked them out yet, please check them out for more information. And without further ado, let's get back to today's episode.
Can I share about my experience with my dad?
Oh, I would love for you to share anything that you're open to share.
There's some Bible verses that I want to share, and I want to preface this by saying that I am not a Bible thumper, and I don't even necessarily identify as a Christian. Neither did my dad. But you know, we do believe in God, and he did too. And so, you know, I'm going to read some verses here. And the reason I preface that is, one, I don't want it to push anyone away. You know, like if there's like a Patrick from the last episode out there, I don't want to push that away. And then also, we have to be open-minded to any way that God is going to show himself, because if we blink, we can miss it.
Wow.
You know, and so I'll just tell my little story. So have you seen Saving Private Ryan?
Yes, of course.
Do you remember the sniper?
Which part?
The sniper.
Just the main character?
No, that's Tom Hanks. The sniper he's a sniper, but remember there's like the scene with the clock tower and he shoots the guy. So throughout the movie, when he's shooting, he recites lines from Psalms. And so I just wanted to like read the ones that he does. Okay. So one of them is Psalm 22:19. Be not thou far from me, O my strength, haste thee to help me. Another one is, O my God, I trust in thee. Let me not be ashamed. Let not mine enemies triumph over me. That's Psalm 25:2. And then remember when he's in the clock tower at the end and like the tank blasts him, he's saying Psalm 144:1 and 2. Blessed be the Lord, my strength, which teaches my hands to war and my fingers to fight, my goodness and my fortress, my high tower and my deliverer. I might cry. My shield and he in whom I trust, who subdueth my people under me. Psalm 144:1 and 2. And anyways, I was in my hotel room in Buffalo, and Saving Private Ryan was on, and it was in that scene in the clock tower, and he was saying those words, and I got a phone call, and it was the hospital telling me that my dad had passed. Wow. And I just thought, wow, that's like really comforting. And so I went, and I got to spend some time with him, even though he had passed. And I asked a chaplain to come and say like a non-religious prayer. And so she did. And then she said, is it okay if I read Psalm over his body? And I was like, yes, it's so okay.
Yeah. You're like,
it's
please.
So okay.
Yeah.
And I just busted out crying. And
wow.
So she read Psalm 23. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the path of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Psalm 23.
That's beautiful.
And yeah. And then, I got really excited because I have an AR-15 here, and in California you can't have one. You can't have one like that. And anyways, I'm trying to find the picture. I can't, but I just got super excited. I looked at it and I forgot, but I had Psalm 144 inscribed on my AR-15.
No way.
The one that the sniper was saying. Yeah. And then, yeah, it was crazy. And then I was listening to your podcast with Doc and Patrick, and he mentioned Psalm 23 in that podcast.
Oh my gosh. So it's just showing up in your life like over and over.
Yeah.
My spiritual mentor told me that sometimes when God is trying to speak to you or give you a message, he's so kind. He won't say it once. Like he'll say it so many times that you can't ignore it until you're like, okay, I hear you loud and clear. Like you said it over here, you did it over here. And now just like what you're saying, it's like all these different circumstances. So sometimes people ask, how to know what God's saying to you, or how to hear God's voice, or how to hear him speaking to you. And one of the ways is to pay attention. Yeah,
exactly. And it's funny because like, I always try to look for these things. I'm like, oh, this is going to happen. And God's like, bitch, you don't know me. And like, it never happens that way.
Oh, that's great.
Something that I've learned is it never happens on our time frame, and it never happens in the way that we think about it. It's going to happen, but then we can look back with clarity and go, there is this AA speaker. I was told a quick little story that he shares about is like, in London in the 1800s, they had, gas street lights. And so there was like a guy that would go around and he would light the lamps. And he said, if you were on top of Big Ben, you wouldn't be able to see that guy, but you'd be able to see where he had been because you could see the lamps lighting. And that reminds me of God. Like if you're just up there and you don't know anything about that lamplighter, you're not going to know logistically how that's happening, but you can sure as hell tell that the lamps are getting lit.
Wow, that's magical. Oh my gosh. You have so many good like golden nuggets of wisdom. You really do. Yeah, it's really awesome. It's really awesome to see. You've had such growth as a person. It's really beautiful to see how you've evolved from, the party Scott that I knew in college when I was partying too, to just where you're at now. It's really beautiful. And I know it's been such a difficult and hard journey for you, maybe harder than others and the things that you've experienced. But what I've noticed is that you have been willing to face the hard and to do the uncomfortable thing. And that's what's providing this growth for you. So I think that's really beautiful and something that people can really learn from.
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, and I was telling Emily before, like I still hurt when these things happen, but I kind of get excited when I start to hurt. And also when I hurt other people. not because I'm a sadomasochist, but because I get excited about when I'm hurting because I know what I need to do and I need to surrender, and I know that there's going to be growth. And if I hurt someone, I also get excited because I get to build self-esteem through an esteemable act, by making it right with them. And, if there's anyone out there that's watching this and they've been hurt by me, either because of my past actions from before I was sober or during my sobriety or at any time, if I haven't personally reached out to you and asked you what I can do to make it right, I ask that you please reach out to me and tell me what I've done to hurt you, because I want to make it right. That's something that's super key. And so I'm serious about that. And so hopefully I have been, I've been comprehensive, and I have to my best of my ability, but I'm not perfect. I'm not perfect now. I wasn't perfect,
Yeah.
And
I think part of it is accepting the fact that we're all human and nobody is perfect, and just acknowledging it's not never messing up. It's what you do when you mess up. And I think that's really powerful. And you mentioned earlier something I kind of want to dive into. You briefly mentioned a moral inventory. So can you explain what that is and how you've used that in your life and what the purpose of that is?
Yes. I want to take a step back to what you just said about actions. So there's a Latin term, acta non verba, and I think about that. It's actions, not words.
I like that one.
Yeah. And that's like, one of my 20 Latin phrases that I want to get tattooed on my face because I'm so cool.
You want 20 on your face?
No. But there's part of me.
Have you asked your mother? Does mother say okay?
There's part of me that wants to still be intimidating and hurt people because I was bullied. And so that side, being a bigger guy now, being strong, not being chunky, being well composed, it creates a shield against those types of things. I see. But all of that is the unhealthy thoughts. Those aren't really what I want to be,
So
but
you're not really going to tattoo your face?
No.
Okay.
No.
I wasn't sure. I mean,
no,
I don't
but
know.
no, there's part of me that wants to get intimidating tattoos,
really?
Yeah.
Just to have that facade.
Yeah. Yeah. And I do want more tattoos, but, not for, the ones that I want are not for those reasons.
Yeah. I mean, you have plenty of landscape that you could, work with.
Yeah.
Besides your face. I mean.
Yeah. Besides my face. Exactly. Don't want to mess that thing up.
Also, faces are fine too. Nothing against that.
Yeah.
I like tattoos.
If that's you, then by all means, this is the money maker. So, so the moral inventory, it's easiest to do a moral inventory through a 12-step program with a sponsor to guide you. I don't recommend doing it alone.
Oh, really? Why is that? It'll just make you feel like crap. Is that why?
No, because you have to know how to do it correctly. And then
Gotcha.
There's also the 5th step, which is sharing the inventory with somebody, which is one of the most important things. Which is one of the most important things because...
Talk about vulnerability.
Yeah. And it's good to do it with someone that is similar to you because, no
judgment.
Because I remember... My sponsor was just he was dude, there's not anything that you can put on there that I haven't done. He's like, I'm talking orgies, guys, girls, whatever.
Gosh.
And I'm like, all right.
You're
I don't know if he was joking or not, but anyways, so that made me realize it opened my eyes, but, sharing our truth is something that takes the power out of those unhealthy thoughts, Yes, and so any of you, if you guys are thinking about doing something stupid, just telling someone that you're thinking about doing something stupid, will take so much of that pressure off, whatever it is, Yeah.
Would that help even if, for example, say someone's struggling with pills or alcohol? Would you also suggest calling somebody and telling them like, I'm going to do this? Would that help?
Yeah. It definitely helps. You know, that's not going to be like your savior in the end, but we call it the 10,000 pound phone in AA because that's like the last thing that you want to do whenever it's about to happen. But there's a story, one of my friends in AA, she was in the bathroom with somebody that was doing stuff, and she called one of my other great friends and said, hey, I'm in the bathroom with someone who's about to do stuff. And guess what? She didn't use.
Wow.
Yeah.
She got out of the situation.
Yeah. You know, and so that doesn't always happen, and it's very difficult to make that call, but it gives us a stopgap. Yeah. And even a text, you know, like even a text can make it reality. Like, hey, I'm about to like, you know, do something stupid. Like just sending that will put it in, like make it reality, and it takes the power out of it for sure.
And something I want to mention with that is that it says that God always gives us a way out of any temptation. So anytime that, you know, I felt myself in any sort of temptation, whether big or small, I always ask myself, what's the one way out? Maybe there's not more than one way. Maybe it's literally only one way. Maybe it's literally walking out of the room, maybe, you know, removing yourself from the situation, or picking up, sending a text, sending a phone call. I don't know what it could be in that situation, but just always asking the question right before it happens, what is my way out? And, you know, a lot of people here are into health and fitness, and there are some like eating type of disorders and stuff that people deal with that listen. So something that's coming to my mind is like, let's say that you're about to have like a binge eating episode right before you go to the pantry or go to, you know, the drive-through or whatever it is, asking yourself, what is my one way out right now? And then like sprinting towards that. So if you're going to the pantry saying, what is my one way out? Maybe it is getting in your car and driving to the mall and walking around, or I don't know, whatever it could be for you. But like acknowledging that there's a way out, finding the one way out, and sprinting towards that one way, I think is helpful.
Yeah. And it's hard because, you know, that's called contrary action. Is like our brain wants to do one thing, and it's usually not the healthy one, you know? And so,
no kidding.
You know, the more, and I'm not perfect at this, but the more we do uncomfortable things, the more comfortable they feel, you know? And, you know, I've gotten pretty good at that. I have so many isms, and that's the thing. It's an ism, not a wasm. So even if you are sober, you're still an alcoholic. Remember that. Even if you're a drug addict, it's an ism, not a wasm. And, what was I saying? Whatever.
So
anyways,
we were talking about the moral inventory.
Yeah. Taking the contrary action, it trains your brain, kind of like a dog. You know, you train them with a treat. Yeah. Eventually they'll do what you want, you know? And so, you have to figure out your own way though. You're right. Like sometimes there is only one and everyone's different. There's no secret. But the moral inventory is basically taking a look at the things that people have done to us that hurt us in life, and what our role is in that. And I have a really good example that I'll share, also it's tracking our fears and uncovering why we have those fears and how it affects our behavior. And there's also a sex inventory, and the intention of that is to identify, do we use that for anything beyond what God gave us sex for? So sex is to procreate, it's to feel good, and it's to build a connection with someone else. So if we're using it for self-esteem, if we're using it to establish like dominance or get a body count or whatever it may be, then that's something that needs to be looked at. But the biggest one is the resentments. So thinking about those that have hurt us, and instead of saying you, looking at what could we have done better in that situation?
Like, what is my part in this?
And so I have a good example about that. You want to talk about it?
Yeah, please share. Yeah.
Yeah. So I've had gay friends my entire life. Like even when I was in middle school, And they're some of the best people that I've ever met.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
And yeah. And, I was at church with my mom, and the pastor made a comment about homosexuals or going to hell or not going to heaven, or they're sinners, whatever. I don't remember. And that just freaking ate my lunch. Mm-hmm. I'm just looking at it and I'm like, knowing the people that I know, there's no way.
Right.
There's no way, dude. I'm just like, dude.
Yeah.
And what happened was, my mom would ask me to go to church with her, and I wouldn't go because I didn't want to be around someone like that. Mm-hmm. And I would say that's a justifiable resentment.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. I live in California now. I would kill to be able to go to church with my mom.
Oh, wow.
Right? And so do you think that pastor is going around saying, oh man, I hurt little Scott's feelings. My day is ruined.
Right. He probably has no idea.
He is thinking the way that he thinks. Mm-hmm. And as my mom would say, he's a Pookie Bear for thinking that.
Oh my gosh, that's adorable.
That's what she says.
That's adorable.
For people that act stupid.
He's a Pookie Bear.
He's a Pookie Bear. And he is. And you know what? Also though, with that, he has said a lot more good things than bad. And something that I've learned is to take what I can use and leave the rest. I don't have to deflect it. I don't have to disprove it.
Right.
And, but,
my dad, sorry, real quick. My dad has a term for that. And he says, like, take what helps you and use it for yourself and throw the rest in the trash.
Yeah. But also you don't even have to throw it in the trash. Like,
true.
And if you're a raccoon, like you may want to go back, I go back to the trash.
Do you?
Yeah, I do. Well, scripture is one of them,
Wait, what?
Scripture is one of the things that didn't really work for me at first.
I see. So that was in Scott's trash.
Yeah.
That's what you meant. And then you ended up going back to it.
Especially with this scenario.
Gotcha. That makes total sense.
Yeah. And so we can leave it, but
wait, hold on. What you just said is really powerful. And I don't think I've actually touched on this before. What you're saying is, yeah, sure. Like you could throw it in the trash, but don't be so fixed in your own ways that you never look at the things that you used to throw in the trash, right? Because maybe we've done a lot of personal growth and development to where what didn't work for us 5, 6, 10 years ago, maybe we revisit it and we're like, wait, this is actually really good. This actually helps my life now. Mm-hmm. So never to like in your computer when you can like permanently erase things. Yeah. Maybe you shouldn't permanently erase all things.
Yeah. You just drag it like into the top right hand corner.
Or that.
Just like leave it there,
Interesting.
Or just like hide it in a folder like you never go into,
Yeah.
Like X93 doc C / whatever it is.
This feels real.
Yeah. It is. But yeah, and the thing is like, we may be able to look at it different too, so like all of our issues are diseases of perception, skewed perception. So when I would drink, did it change my reality? No. It only changed the way that I perceived my reality.
Wow.
And then when I would come back, my reality was the same.
Or worse.
And it was worse because of my drinking. So what was the only other way to change my perception on my reality again is to drink again, right? Mm. And so it's not about, there's a saying, if you want to change the world, change yourself. And I've found that to be true. But yeah, like I just thought about it, and man, think about all of the amount of time that I would have been able to spend with my mom if I hadn't had that resentment, I see. And so, and the thing about the resentments are when we identify in the moral inventory what our part was, we have to make it right. And in that case, like, I'm not going to go directly up to that pastor and be like, you know what you did to me.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you. But no,
you can tell you're in AA, by the way, because everyone that I know in AA does that voice for AAers. Like, that's hilarious to me.
The one guy after the meeting did have a Southern accent. He was like redneck Santa Claus, like 5'2". It's like shaped like a beach ball.
Oh my goodness.
Cool guy. No, but and by the way, if you're shaped like a beach ball, we love you.
That's okay too. We love you.
I'm shit. Yeah. Anyways, so when we have a resentment, we identify our role, we have to make an amends. In a scenario like that, it's really difficult to make a direct amends. And so we can make living amends. And so what that's been for me is being open, number one. Number two, like, Mom, I love you, but she knows she annoys me so bad. But
you probably annoy her too, by the way.
Yeah, I do probably. Exactly.
Like, she definitely loves you, but you probably annoy her too.
Yeah, I'm annoying. That's why. But there's going to be a day where my mom's not going to be here anymore. And I'm really grateful because there's a day that my dad's not here. And I realized that I would give anything for her to come back and just say something annoying to me. You know, if that's all I could get, I would say, yes, give that to me, please. Wow. And so even though it's frustrating and I start to feel something in here, I am able to pause and think about what this experience is. And, like, I don't say I love my mom, except when she does blah, 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 blah. I love my mom. She's a great mom. And so that living amends too was being more accepting of the things like that. And, my dad had those same things. He loved to complain. He loved to politic my ear off. And, it would be frustrating sometimes, but I always would speak to him with just trying to bring love into his heart, and lots of things had happened to him over the last few years that were bad, that would be very difficult for someone that doesn't have a connection with God to understand. And instead of saying, stop complaining, you have such a good life, which he did, I would just try to guide him towards why those things might be happening. And, it turns out after his death, like, so many people have reached out to me, and he looked at me as he called me his hero. Wow. And he called me it was like the roles reversed, like his mentor, his source of wisdom. And everyone just said how much he talked about me and how proud he was. And that just made me feel so good, And part of the reason that was able to happen is by dropping my ego and making that living amends to that pastor and that church by making those changes, And, then there's a direct amends. I'll just try to be short because we're running on time, but, the direct amends is not saying sorry. Nobody wants to hear sorry. It's me coming to you and saying, here are the specific things that I've done that I recognize that have hurt you or made you feel a certain kind of way. And I want to know, first of all, what I can do to make it right. Some people have said there's not anything, I'm sorry. And that's the other thing too, is with the moral inventory, it's the 4th and 5th step, but we don't make amends till 9.
Gotcha.
So 6, 7, 8, it's like a math textbook. You don't do trigonometry right off the front. You do addition, you do subtraction.
And you build off of it.
Yes. And that's the way that's been. And anyways, owning up to those things, doing what the people ask, but then also asking, what have I done that I haven't mentioned that has hurt you? And that was a key part in one of my amends. I can say that our friendship probably wouldn't have been repaired with this person if I hadn't asked that simple question, because I would have missed something that was very deeply concerning to them. And they're not the type of person that really opens up unless solicited.
Yeah. Wow. Like
And
they
so,
needed that prompt of the question in order to bring it to you.
yes, exactly right.
That's huge. And I think we could all benefit from having better conversations in conflict and knowing how to give an appropriate apology, or maybe just a more effective apology.
Yeah.
You know, rather than, like you said, just being like, I'm sorry. Right. But owning up, taking personal responsibility, asking what action can make it right. And then also asking if there's anything else. I think that's massive.
And it's really hard because, there are justifiable resentments. There are times when we really feel like someone just did us dirty. And I can tell you that no amount of action that person takes to do it right will amount to two things: making the amends to them and praying for them. Those are two really important things for people that have hurt us, and this like old AA lady really helped me one time, because she said, like, for those I have a resentment that hurt me, I know I have to pray for them, but it's really hard. So sometimes I pray that they go to heaven tomorrow.
And you're like, that's a prayer I can get behind.
Yeah. Just leave out, whatever.
God, if you want to meet them right now, I come into alignment with
totally
you.
Great.
Send them right there. First class priority. Amen.
Yeah, exactly. Do that. Yeah. But, pray for them as if we would pray for someone that we truly loved and cared about, because they're just sick and hurting just like we are. And the things that we do are rarely personal. They're very rarely about the person that we end up hurting. They're usually about ourselves. And why would that be any different for someone else hurting us, And so, and those two things have been very key for me, is making the amends, even if they hurt me more, or even if they were the only one that were bad in the scenario, whatever, and praying for them. And praying for them is really hard sometimes, but if you just do it, you'll find that one day you won't pray for them because you haven't thought about how bad they hurt you that day. And then you go, oh shit, I need to pray for them, but it's really cool that I didn't heard about this.
Wow. Yeah, I feel like sometimes you have to step into a discipline before you can start to feel or see the results, or before it feels real. The same thing could be said for when people are practicing self-love and, they're doing self-love type of acts, but then they're also, instead of speaking negatively about themselves, speaking positively about themselves. And initially that may feel fake, right? But if they will use discipline and structure to say, even if it feels fake, I'm going to continue to do it because that is what I actually want to manifest in my life. And then they do it. And then say a few weeks down the road, they're like, oh wait, today that didn't feel awkward. Today it didn't feel fake. Today I actually look at myself in the mirror and I do think you're great. I do think you're doing a great job. I do think you're doing the best. I do think you're valuable and worthy, but just like anything, I think sometimes you have to submit yourself and surrender yourself to the discipline of what it is that you want to cultivate in your life. So this has been such an incredible interview. Thank you so much for sharing everything that you've shared so far. As we wrap up here, is there anything else that maybe we didn't cover that is on your heart that you want to share? Or is there maybe a word of advice that you'd want to give to the person who maybe they're in your shoes of before you got sober and they're really struggling with just getting sober in general? Is there any little bit of advice you could give them?
Yeah. I would just say, if there's anybody that wants help or wants to talk, like you can reach out to me, and I would be happy to serve as a resource to assist. And I have no ulterior motives. To be honest, like your dad said this, like I could live my merry little life and like be fine, but I am called to more than that. But, if you're struggling to get sober, like first, know that I feel for you. Second, you're afflicted by a disease that nobody understands. And that's very difficult. That's a very difficult thing to do. And, I just there's three things: how, honesty, open-mindedness, and willingness. And those are the three things. And AA is the only way that's been proven to help millions of people. And so, it's just really hard because there's so many things that can deflect us from that. But just if you're honest, open-minded, and willing, like anything can happen. Anything can happen for you. And, but it's definitely not an easy thing. And the success rate is very low because it is not easy. Mm-hmm. And there's been a lot of times I wanted to give up, but like I shared at the beginning of the podcast, it's not about like us holding each other and saying like, you don't drink and I won't drink. You don't drink, I won't drink.
Yeah.
And the other thing is don't judge yourself, you know? Mm-hmm. I can't remember like all the times that I would be like, why am I thinking about drinking? Why do I want to drink? I can't be thinking that. Oh man, why am I thinking that? Like those thoughts are always going to be there. Mm-hmm. And it's about what you do with them. And something that can really help with that is practicing mindfulness. You know, for me, I used the Headspace app that really helped me learn how to adopt mindfulness. And that's really helped me in my stuff especially when I get into self-pity mode.
Yeah, no kidding. There's also a YouTube channel called Guided Meditation, and it's just guided meditation. There's 5 minutes go figure. There's 5-minute ones or 10-minute ones. And some of them are topic focused, like about self-forgiveness and self-love and things like that. And I mean, I've gotten a lot of just really great moments and experiences out of taking 10 minutes out of my day to just sit down and do a meditation. It really connects you with yourself in a way that I feel most people, as they go throughout their regular lives, don't connect with themselves on that way, right? Mm-hmm. Because we're all so busy and we're so moving, and this requires you to get really, really still and gets you like deep into those soul things that we don't always touch on.
Yeah, and we're really good at talking to God, not very good at listening.
Oof, say that one again.
We're really good at talking to God, not good at listening. And that's our opportunity there, is prayer and meditation. So
wow,
that is a key component of one of the steps as well. But it's important to listen. We can listen throughout the day, but that really helps with that connection, you know. Mm-hmm. And intuition, it helps build that. And intuition is like the super highway to God. And for me, you know.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Thank you so much. Thank you for being on the show. Everybody, if you enjoyed the show and got a lot out of it, please do me a favor. Tag us both on your Instagram. I'll have his Instagram below. I'll have the books that he shared below. Anything that you guys need will be in the show notes or on the description box of the YouTube channel. So thank you guys so much for listening to another show. We hope to see your tags on Instagram, and I'll see you for the next episode of Evolve with Emily. Bye, guys.